The lion's share of the water we use in the state goes to agriculture. Most of that is sent to large farms, but some flows to California vineyards. Sonoma County, known around the world for its fine wines, has also become a leader in sustainable agriculture. 99% of the county's wine grapes have been certified as grown under sustainable practices through an innovative program launched by Karissa Kruse, president of the Sonoma County Winegrowers Association. We recently drove up to Sonoma to meet Karissa and see those sustainability measures in practice on an active vineyard.
Now we've been on the sustainability mission since 2014, and who knew how relevant our timing would be, as we now can't escape a conversation about climate crisis and how agriculture can play really a unique role in that.
Yeah.
So we're walking through cover crop,
which is this
here.
here.
Right, so we have beans, bell beans and vetch. Often there's mustard that's used, and this is a natural way to put nutrients back into the soil. But it's a really good erosion protection as well.
So I'm also noticing these tubes coming along here. This is drip irrigation.
It is, and so, I mean, now you see this in almost all the vineyards. This was sort of a technology or innovation change happened decades ago, but really there's just small emitters. They slowly drip the water. It's either going directly to support the vine or it's going in to recharge the aquifer. So in that way, there's no water waste happening. It's either providing growth or being saved.
What was the spark, the impetus that made Sonoma County decide to embark on the sustainability program in the first place back in 2014?
Yeah, our farmers were recognizing the world was changing, and we were getting new technology available to us. In 2014, when we made our commitment, we were in a drought situation, much like we are now. And so we were starting to see more extremes in our weather and starting to really think about our workforce, so social sustainability, and all those things were kind of moving behind the scenes. And it was like, well, what if we were to look at all of those things kind of in together, holistically? Farming across California deals a lot with, water issues. It deals with climate. It deals with the same sort of labor force. And so we committed to doing one of those programs and putting it under a sustainable Sonoma County umbrella.
So you implemented this goal in 2014 to become completely sustainable,
Yes.
and 5 years later you achieved it.
We did. Yes, which is amazing. And so the way the program works is the farmers do a self-assessment of all of these practices they evaluate themselves on. And then there's actually a third-party auditor that comes out to the ranch. They say, okay, we're going to walk your ranch, we're going to look at your documentation, we're going to see all of these practices and validate that you're doing what you say you're going to do. And then every year the farmers have to write a plan to improve in some way, to make an investment back in being more sustainable.
So in addition to the sustainability measures we saw today when we were walking around,
Right.
what else does this program entail?
There's actually 44 different practices that touch water, and not just conservation, but water quality, water use. There's different practices around social sustainability. So how are you implementing safety measures on your vineyard? Are you giving back to the community? Do you sit on a local board? Do you donate? What are you doing to be part of the Sonoma County community? And then there's a lot of business pieces of it. At the end of the year, if you don't have a farm, you're not in business the next year, who cares if you're sustainable in any of your practices, right? That economic viability is critical.
Okay, so most of the work is in the field in terms of sustainability, but not all of it.
Absolutely, so we are super excited. I'm about to show you one of the first Ford Pro charging stations in the world.
Oh,
right here. So this is part of our collaboration with Ford Pro to really think about how we help our farmers go electric on their ranches. So electric vans, charging stations, trucks, and fleet management. So how do they really optimize their fleets and lower their idling time, release less greenhouse gases?
Let's talk about some of the specific challenges that we're facing because of climate change.
Absolutely.
Wildfires are one. You yourself lost your home in 2017 in the Tubbs fire. So for you and for many who are here, it's very personal.
It's extremely personal. When it literally lands in your backyard, or in my case, literally my backyard, and impacted by the Tubbs fire and lost my home, you realize you got to start now. It's already probably too late for some of what we could have been doing for the last 50 years, last 100 years. So when it comes to wildfires specifically, there's a number of things our farmers are doing. So we call it hardscaping. So it's really doing vegetation management. It's removing sort of brush that can really be a fuel for the fires. It's thinking about materials that are used in fencing. We've been doing a number of wildfire preparedness and safety classes just to teach people to think about how you stay safe, thinking about routes in and out of our community to make sure that you're never in a situation where you can't make it to safety.
Another big issue that we have here in California is the lack of water. We're
Yes.
going into our third year of a drought,
Yes.
very significant drought. How's that impacting the land right now?
Yeah, so one thing that's interesting is one way we're super lucky is that wine grapes being our primary sort of agriculture here in Sonoma County, they're incredibly water efficient crop. So they don't use a lot of water. And in fact, over time, if you irrigate less and less, the vines respond to that. And so you're sort of training vineyards to be less dependent on irrigation. So historically, we asked 10, 15 years ago, what would you be doing? You might water an entire vineyard at once. Now they're saying the Chardonnay in this block that's this clone needs exactly this much water. And there's no waste because it's going right back in to recharge the aquifer. So we're getting really, I would say, precision irrigation. We're becoming really more precise in our farming.
So what's this little red guy?
Yeah, so this doesn't look like much, but this is actually a neutron probe. So it helps our farmers really understand how much moisture is in the soil.
Did you say a neutron probe?
Yes, I know. That's not words that roll off the tongue.
I feel like we're bringing astrophysics
I know,
into
totally.
this.
And there is a lot of, I think people would be surprised how much technology and data our farmers use. They actually love data.
Okay.
They love farming, they love their tractors and their trucks,
Yeah.
but they love data, and it's something like
So
this.
what data does that provide?
So it actually it measures the moisture in the soil, and so then they can determine irrigation practices. So it really helps them not waste a single drop of water.
So you've been putting all of these sustainability measures into place. Do you have any ways to quantify the benefit of what you're doing?
Yeah, we actually looked at different sort of scenarios of practices on the 20 different pilot ranches. And we were able to measure how much CO2 those scenarios were sort of sequestering in the ground, or if we were eliminating any of the greenhouse gas emissions. And in just 1 year, just those 20 pilot ranches, we're able to lower CO2 emissions by the equivalent of almost 5.4 million miles driven by a car.
So you've planted all these baby redwoods along the side of the field.
Yeah, a lot of our farmers are really looking at ways that they can do even more to sequester carbon on their ranches, take kind of advantage of the entire landscape. And so you'll see there's a whole row of redwood trees here. They're quite young now, but they're already, as their roots go into the ground, they're already starting to do their job as being little fighters in the global climate crisis. They're at battle right now.
And explain what that means.
When you have growing objects, they're actually able to put carbon back into the soil. So if you're not moving that soil, it stays in there. And so you're helping sort of reduce and pull down
out of the atmosphere
into the earth. Into the earth.
Karissa, wine's a luxury item. So why does this matter?
These farmers who have declared they're farmers, first and foremost, today they're farming wine grapes. Down the road, it might be something else. A lot of these farmers have seen multiple diversity in their crops since their families have been farming. Maybe not them, but they're the generation before them. So that's about preserving agriculture. So I think we should all be asking questions about how everything is created and produced. I think that's where we're at now, and I think that's an important question. So why not a luxury good? Maybe even more importantly, a luxury good. I think we have a huge responsibility.
The struggles that we face with climate change often feel so heavy.
Yeah.
And it makes us truly consider the issues that we're dealing as existential threats,
Yeah.
right? So when we feel so heavy about climate change, it does seem there's something in this program that offers hope.
Absolutely. When you realize you can start locally, and you probably have to start locally, and it's going to be me making a difference in what I do, it's going to be our farmers making a difference. That's one small thing, but that's a win. And I think if you start to add up all the small things, then you get the big win. And so I think that's the hope, is that whenever you feel overwhelmed, know there's a group of farmers here, this really small place in California, that are doing their best every day and thinking about it every day, about how they can do better. And I think if we all start to adopt that mentality, we're going to get on our way. We're going to be on the journey.